from my free bookmarks out there. I have 2 books that I'm the author of out there. You should take a look at them. I'm going to be telling you a Celtic fairy tale. And the Celtic lands used to be pretty much most of Europe, actually. It's not just Ireland and Scotland. And so there's a lot of different chiefs, a lot of different little communities, and there's a lot of amazing fairy tales. And this is a Gaelic fairy tale, which I believe comes from Ireland, called Bevin, which is a Gaelic word which means beautiful maiden. It's not that the mother didn't love her son. It's just that he had a way of getting on her nerves. For example, one day the son came to her and said, "Hey Mom, guess what I was doing in the dirt today? Digging with my teeth. And guess what I found? A worm. And guess what I did with it? Ate it. Oh Mom, I'm not feeling so well. I think I'm gonna... Oh, I'm okay." "That's nice, dear. You just run along and play now." "Oh, if only I had a daughter. I would give anything for a daughter, even my own son." And as soon as the mother said these words, out of nowhere, appeared a little man. And this little man went up to his mother and said, "I'm the leprechaun who likes to go around meddling with people's lives because it's funny. Did you say you would give away your only son for a daughter? What a wicked thing to say. And because you said it, it's going to come to pass. As soon as your daughter is born, your only son will turn into, let's say, a goose, because that makes sense." Shazam! And he was gone. Well, true to the words of the leprechaun, the mother bore a baby. And she named this baby girl Bevin, beautiful name. And as soon as this baby girl was born, the mother's son walked in and said, "Hey Mom, guess what I was eating today in the dirt?" Poof! Oh, my poor son, but at least I have a baby girl. True to the name, Bevin grew up to be very young and very beautiful. Well, she didn't grow up to be very young. She grew up to be very beautiful. And as she was one day pondering on her life, she said to her mother, "Mom, why don't I have any brothers or sisters?" "Well, you're just an only child, and that's all there is to it." "But Mom, why is your nose growing longer?" "No, it's not." "Yes, Mom, it's growing longer." "No, I'm quite sure it's not." "Mom, your nose is about to burst through the window." "All right, if you must know the truth, you had a brother. But I said a rash vow, and because I really wanted you, I said if I could only have a baby girl, then I would have him turn into a goose, and yeah, and a leprechaun made it happen." "You mean Harold the goose is my brother, and it's my fault?" Yes, it's all your fault. You just go on thinking that now." Poor Bevin, she was so sad, she said to herself, "I would do anything if I could turn my brother from a goose back into a human." And as soon as she said this, shazam! Out of nowhere appeared a leprechaun who likes to go around meddling with people's lives because it's funny. "Did you say anything?" "Well, let's see. I can think of some good anythings. Let's say you have to crawl on your hands and knees and pick up little bits of mulch and leaves and pine needles, and with your bare fingers, you have to sew them into a beautiful pair of pants with a matching vest. And if during this time you once talk, or laugh, or cry, or sneeze, then your brother will forever remain a goose. But if you do none of those things, and if you finish the beautiful pair of pants with a matching vest, then your brother will turn human again, because that makes sense." Shazam! And he was gone. Well, in love for her goose of a brother, Bevin did what she knew she had to. She got down on her hands and knees and started picking up little bits of leaves and mulch and pine needles, and with her bare fingers started sewing them into a beautiful pair of pants with a matching vest. And during this time, she never talked, she never spoke, she never sneezed, and most of all, she never cried, though she wanted to very badly. This happened for years. It was hard, long work. But whenever she looked at Harold the goose, she always found the strength to go on. One day, Bevin was outside working on this outfit, when it so happened that the prince of the land was walking by, and he happened to notice Bevin, and at once he was love-struck. He ran straight up to her. He took her hand, fell to one knee, and said, "Marry me." And Bevin said, Marry me! Marry me! Marry me! This happened 1,000 times. On the 1,001st time, Bevin could no longer resist the charm of the prince, so she consented. The prince threw a royal dowry to Bevin's mother. He helped Bevin into his arms, and together they walked to his palace. Well, during this time, Bevin did not forget her promise to her brother. She looked back and silently promised herself that she would remember and keep her promise. So they came to the palace of the prince, where they were wed. And everybody in this kingdom loved Bevin, everyone except the prince's very cliche evil stepmother. And like most evil stepmothers, she had some problems. She thought it was kind of strange that Bevin never talked, whereas the prince thought having a wife who didn't talk had his benefits. It just didn't rub the evil stepmother the right way. And so she decided that she was going to get some revenge. So one night, when they were sleeping and Bevin had had a new baby, this mother crept into the room and she took that baby and she handed it to a wolf. But don't worry, he was a nice wolf named Charles who ran a daycare center. And she said, take this baby and I don't ever want to see it again. And the wolf said, yeah, but you realize I charge $25 an hour, right? And she said, I don't care how much you charge, just take the baby. All right, but you know what happens to people who don't pay their debts to wolves, right? I don't care, just take the baby. All right, here's my business card. So, the mother laid the business card on top of Bevin and crept out of the room. The next morning, the prince woke up to see his baby. When he noticed the baby was gone, and there was a business card from Charles the Wolf on top of Bevin. And he said, Bevin, did you give our only child to Charles the Wolf? And Bevin, more than ever, wanted to speak, but because of her promise to her brother, she didn't. She couldn't. But she shook her head. Well, then in walked the evil stepmother and said, oh, yes, son, it's true, I saw everything myself. Bevin gave your child to the wolf. Bevin must be punished. You would never lie to me, would you, mother? Who do I trust? And because Bevin couldn't defend herself, the prince followed the counsel of his mother. Poor Bevin was thrown into a dungeon. And even then, she remembered her promise to her goose of a brother. She got down on her hands and knees and picked up little bits of leaves and mulch and pine needles, and with her bare fingers continued sewing it into a beautiful pair of pants with a matching vest. She was getting closer, but she still had work to do. Meanwhile, the wicked, evil stepmother was going throughout the town, singing songs and lighting haystacks on fire, and telling everybody how horrible Bevin was, and saying she must be burned at the stake. And the people bought into it. And so Bevin eventually was taken out of the dungeon. She was brought up to a stake where she was to be burned alive. And even then, she continued to work on that beautiful pair of pants with a matching vest, sewing with her bare fingers. The executioner raised a torch and approached Bevin and said, any last words? And after 5 years, Bevin looked at this beautiful pair of pants with a matching vest, and she said, I'm done. And a gasp fell across the entire audience because no one had ever heard Bevin speak. And everyone said, what? And she said, I'm done. I finished the beautiful pair of pants with the matching vest. And as soon as she said this, she looked up into the sky and she saw a goose flying through the sky, which suddenly transformed into her brother, which landed a terrible belly flop on the ground. And her brother ran up to her and said, sister, thank you so much. I'm human again. Now I can go eat worms. Thank you. And he ran off. Well, Bevin felt so relieved, and she looked for her husband, who ran into her arms, and he said, tell me the truth, Bevin. Did you give our child to the wolf? And Bevin said, no, I would never have done that. And she said, if only we could have our child back, I would do anything. And as soon as she said that, Shazam! The leprechaun who likes to go around meddling with people's lives appeared and said, did you say anything? Well, I can think of some good anythings. Let's see. Let's say you have to hop on one foot across the entire coast of Ireland. And during this time, if you say the word it or the or if, you'll turn to stone. And as he continued to go on listing ridiculous conditions, it so happened that Charles the Wolf was walking along. And Charles the Wolf was holding this baby saying, hey,
Does anybody want this baby? Because I'm not getting paid and I don't even want this anymore.
And so Bevin turned away from the leprechaun who likes to go around meddling with people's lives because it's funny, and she said, yes, that's my baby, please, can I have it?
Yeah, you just take this. And then Charles the Wolf said, hey, by the way, have any of you seen this wicked old hag of a woman? Because she owes me a lot of money.
And Bevin said, yeah, I think that's my mother-in-law, and I think she's over there. So Charles the Wolf walked over to the mother-in-law and said,
hey, you. Yeah, you owe me a lot of money.
And the wicked stepmother said, me? I don't know what you're talking about.
And Charles said, I think you know what I'm talking about. Do you know what happens to people who don't pay their debts to wolves? Do you want to see what happens to people who don't pay their debts to wolves? This is what happens.
The end.